Hello, and welcome to A Day in the Life of a Vanderbilt Health Systems Pharmacy Administration and Leadership Resident. I'm Molly Knosman. I'm Executive Director for Inpatient Operations and the Residency Program Coordinator for the Administration Residency. We are glad that you have taken time to watch this video today. And I'm joined by Sydney Madison and Sherwin Tenya, and I'm going to let them do a little introduction about themselves.
Go ahead, Sydney.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Sydney Madison. I'm the current PGY1 Health Systems Pharmacy Administration resident at Vanderbilt.
I am Sherwin Tenya, and I'm the current PGY2 Health System Pharmacy Administration and Leadership resident here at Vanderbilt University Medical Center.
Very good. One of the things we wanted to bring you was information about what it's like to be a health system admin resident at Vanderbilt. So I want Sydney to go through what it's like in the day in the life for clinical rotations.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had several clinical rotations so far. I've been in the trauma ICU, consult service, and have also been in the medical ICU so far this year. All of them are a little bit different, but the general layout of my day is that I come in and I get here in the morning and work up my patients. I'm usually responsible for the entire unit that I'm covering, which is anywhere from probably 10 to 14 patients. And I get all of my patients worked up and make sure I know what's going on with everybody before I head up to rounds. The timing of rounds really varies based on what unit you're on, but usually somewhere between 8 or 8:30 or somewhere around there. And so on rounds, I am the pharmacist on the team. My preceptor will round with me for the first few days of the rotation. And then as soon as I feel comfortable, my preceptor will let me take over. And so I am a resource for the team and spend rounds making recommendations to try and optimize medication therapy, as well as answering any questions that come up on the fly on rounds. So after I finish up with rounds, which lasts anywhere from an hour, 2 hours, maybe longer if you're on a really busy service, I go downstairs and I meet with my preceptor and go through all of my patients with my preceptor and kind of let them know what we did on rounds, what changes we made, and present the patients to my preceptor so that they are aware of all of the things that we did on rounds. Then at this point, it's usually around lunchtime. And so usually we'll take a little bit of a break, complete all of our pharmacokinetic consult notes. So any patients on vancomycin or warfarin or medications like that we manage pharmacy consults for, I'll take that time to review those and write notes on those patients. And then in the afternoons, we usually have topic discussions with the preceptors on various topics that relate to the rotation. And so we'll meet up in the afternoons and go through that, as well as kind of clean up anything else that needs to change before the end of the day with our patients. So that's usually what a day in the life on a clinical rotation looks like for me. Molly, anything else?
Sydney, I think one of the questions that we do get frequently is how accepting are physicians, nurse practitioners, physicians assistants of pharmacy services and the recommendations that you make when you're working with the team?
That's a great question, Molly. I have been overwhelmed at how receptive they are to pharmacy recommendations. I mean, you really need to make sure that you have the evidence to back up your recommendations, because usually they will take your recommendation as soon as you say it. They really do know that we have very high quality pharmacists here at Vanderbilt, and they trust us very much, which has been really phenomenal to work with. So I have found them to be very receptive of our interventions.
Excellent. Thank you very much for adding that, Sydney. We really do rely on our PG1 and our PGY2 residents to take care of patients and the people and processes that take care of all different kinds of patients and situations across the medical center. So as a PGY1 resident, you definitely have clinical autonomy in a very supported environment. So thank you, Sydney, for sharing your experiences. Okay, Sherwin, I would love to hear about your experiences as a PGY2 administration-focused resident. Tell us what a day in the life is for you.
Sure. So far for the first half of the year, I've had several different management rotations that have ranged from formulary management, medication safety, informatics, and even ambulatory care. Most of these rotations, while the content is different, the days actually look fairly similar. So most days I get here around 7. While the rotation doesn't actually start until 8 with meetings, there's always something to work on. So I try to get here to get myself in order to know what we are going to do for the day and what meetings we're going to have, and to prepare for those meetings. As an admin resident, you are going to get pulled into many, many meetings. I would say about 80% of your day is going to be filled with meetings. Generally, there is no defined lunchtime. Some days you actually have a break between your meetings where you do have a defined lunch. Some days it is you have 3 meetings in a row right around lunchtime, so you grab your lunch and you eat while you're not on the microphone. But the great thing about being in all these meetings is that you do get to see everything that's going on in the health system, and you're very much involved in it. As a resident, you don't just sit in and listen to what is going on, you actively participate in it. A lot of the times, if there is research that needed to be done for that meeting or some type of notes that need to be taken, you generally the person that is doing that. And a lot of the leadership looks for your input as someone looking into this process as a new viewer, and you generally jump into processes while there is lots of background going on, and they'll be like, what do you think of what's happening right now from the fact that you don't know all of the background? Does this make sense? Which it's really refreshing to see, because as most people would see, a new pair of eyes actually helps in making processes better most of the time. So to the end of most days last until maybe between 3 and 4. And generally with all my preceptors, if not on a daily basis, at least once or twice a week, we try to touch base and review what has happened in the different meetings and plan for anything else that might be coming up at the end of the week, or if there are any long-term projects for the month that are going on, just get an update of where I may be on those projects, and if there's any additional need from the preceptor or additional information that I need to complete the work that I have to do.
Very good. Sure, when you talked about some research and support roles that you've played on these rotations, can you tell us about some of the times where you've been put in the captain's chair and having been given the opportunity to lead either a meeting or a major part of that rotation?
Sure. So in terms of meetings, so at least one meeting every rotation, they try to ensure that as a resident, you lead that meeting. Some rotations, you have more than just one meeting that you lead. One of that has come to mind that is very pertinent right now is our weekly COVID meeting. For a while, I was on the hospital administration rotation. Every week I led that meeting, which meant getting all the information before the meeting, looking up to see if there's any changes in what guidelines have come out, which, as we know, it changes pretty much every day. So it was always keeping tabs on that. I've also we've had new clinics coming on stream. So I was instrumental in getting the medication list done for those clinics. And we are building a database for when we actually get our COVID vaccines. So I was the one that in getting our analysts to build a database and getting all the employees that will be using said database, getting all that information and making sure the database is up to standard for what we needed to do. I was a point person for that, which is really helpful it's something I'm probably going to have to do later in my career. So getting to do it while there's someone else to help me with it was very helpful.
Thank you for providing those extra examples. It is really important to us to make sure that our residents get the experience to lead while they're here. And so we do put Sydney and Sherwin in positions where they are in front, planning and leading and getting that experience in the supported environment. Thank you. Okay, let's shift gears here. Let's talk about staffing. Sydney, do you want to talk about your experience staffing within the central pharmacy for the first part of your year?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a PGY1, we staff every third weekend, and it's first shift. It's from 7 to 3:30, which is awesome. And then we also staff every sixth weeknight from 4 to 9 p.m. So we, in the first half of the PGY1 year, we are in the central pharmacy doing a really operational role. So we are kind of rotate between being out front in the pharmacy and verifying orders and answering the phones, checking all of the preparations that are done by the technicians. And sometimes we're also in the IV room, checking the products that come out of the IV room as well. So we get a good variety of things that we do when we are staffing. And it's incredible how much I have learned from staffing. A great example is that my patient care, my case presentation that I gave was actually based on a patient that I identified while I was staffing instead of one that I identified on a clinical rotation, because you're exposed to so many different patients in the hospital and what's going on with them. And there's also great opportunities, even as the PGY1 admin resident. I feel like you're very often looked to for solutions to things that come up on the fly. Just recently over the holiday weekend, we needed to make some adjustment to PAR levels that we were stocking in the COVID ICU of certain medications. And so I was looked to try and help identify a solution for this that was coming up over the holiday weekend when not many other people were here. So you get a lot of great experiences while staffing, not only just learning what the staffing pharmacists are doing on a daily basis, but also identifying problems and figuring out solutions for them as well.
That is excellent, excellent experience. And I think you're able to tie so many different medication therapy points together. And the physicians, when they call the pharmacy, they're really just looking for an answer. So I think that's great that you're able to help them in that moment. So Sherwin, can you talk to us a little bit about the changes in staffing and new opportunities that happen in the second semester of your PGY1 year, and then transition into what differences you've been able to experience in staffing during the PGY2 portion of your training?
Sure. So for the second half of the PGY1 year, you actually move to being one of the clinical pharmacists on the evening shift. So our clinical staffing model, throughout on the day shift, we have a team-based clinical model, while on the evening shift, we have a floor-based. There's a on the medicine floor, the cardiac floor, the neurology floor, and a couple others. So for that 5-hour block on your second half of the PGY1 year, you are actually the clinical pharmacist that goes up to the floor. We try to ensure that every night that we go up to the floor on the 6-night rotation, you are actually sitting on one of the units that's close to either the ICU or in a location where you can access all the patients that you'll be taking care of that night. And the reason why we want the pharmacists to be, the residents to be up on the floor, is to serve as a resource to the nursing staff, so that they do get that interaction, because we are supposed to be a resource for them. And it's a big part of the staffing model that we have in the evening, and nurses rely on us a lot. And they come ask you questions. Even the doctors walk up to you and ask you questions when they see you on the floor. In terms of transitioning to the second year, you no longer have the evening staffing, but you have your weekend staffing still. The difference between the weekend staffing as a second year resident is you act as the pharmacist in charge. You do have another manager as backup with you during the day, but most people come to you for any solutions that for problems that may come up. Both technicians and pharmacists have asked me various times throughout my staffing this year to solve problems and just to voice things that they may have seen that is happening to see if I can get it either resolved or just bring it to leadership to see what's their point of view. Even on days that I'm not staffing, because of my relationship I've built with them, if I walk into Central Pharmacy, they're generally like, Sherwin, this has been happening. Could you take a look at it? It actually happened early last week. I picked up an extra evening shift, and there were 3 different problems that came up. They were like, can you take these down and take it back so that we can get this issue resolved? So for your second year, you build a very good relationship with pharmacists and technicians because you're the pharmacist in charge. They look to you to solve any problems that may come up on that weekend. And the pharmacists look to you for any changes that may have happened throughout the week where they might not have heard about, or any news that has come down from leadership on the hospital level. They look to you for that guidance to say, this is what we should be doing. And if there is any other issues that I might not be able to solve by myself, having the backup of a manager there so that I know they have my back. They probably would not intervene unless I say I'm really struggling with this, because that is one of the great things about being here at Vanderbilt. The managers do give you a lot of leeway to try for you to build your leadership style. So it's been really helpful.
Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing your staffing experiences with us, Sherwin. So the next topic we want to cover is time management. It's an essential for any leader, and especially for any resident who's in their training program. So Sydney, can you give us your top 2 time management pearls?
Oh man, this is a tricky one. Time management is definitely important with all of the different projects that you have going on, as well as all of your patient care responsibilities, especially in the first year with all of your clinical rotations. I would say one of the biggest lessons that I have learned is how to utilize those brief 20-minute breaks in your day where you don't have another meeting for 20 minutes, but I used to think that you weren't able to get much done in 20 minutes. And now I'm able to look at that time and be like, man, I could collect data on 5 different patients in that time. And so learning how to utilize those little nuggets of time throughout your day, you find that you're able to accomplish a lot more when you utilize those instead of sitting around and browsing through email or whatever you would normally be doing in that time. I would say the second lesson that I have learned has really helped here at this institution is over communicating everything in terms of all of the projects that you are working on. I feel like as a student, I was assigned a project, I did the project, and then I turned it in. And in the residency world and in the working world, that's not normally the way that things worked. And that was a lesson that I definitely had to learn in residency. But I found that giving little status updates when things are changed on a project to your preceptors goes a long way to help them know that you're working on it, things are changing, and it helps keep everybody in the loop. So that they are not chasing you down trying to get an update on something that just has not been on the top of your to-do list recently. So I found that over communicating what you're doing to the people around you helps everything run a lot more smoothly and helps with your time management as well.
Sydney, those are excellent pearls. I really appreciate you sharing them with the team. Sherwin, do you have additional time management pearls that you would like to add? Sherwin, I think you are muted.
The first one I can add to that would be learning to prioritize what is important You are always going to have projects to work on. You're always going to have another meeting or something else that's another deadline that's coming up. Working on something where the deadline is 2 months away and leaving things that you have due in a week is not the best way to go. So finding some way to make sure you prioritize your work, whether you you make a calendar, whether you have a notepad that you write everything down on, or a checklist, it's going to work wonders for your residency years. And then the second item is to actually schedule time for working on things that you can't do in those 20-minute blocks. So like if you're doing your master's program, if you need dedicated time to do that, schedule that time. Don't just say, I'll do it at the end of the day, or I'll do it at some point this weekend. When you schedule that time, you make yourself accountable. And it generally works out a lot better than just saying, I am going to get this much studying done at the end of the day. So
I really like those tips. The priority tip is something that I use every day. I'm glad that you shared that one. Thank you. So the last topic that we wanted to talk about was the resident culture and the resident community. Can you talk a little bit about your residency class and kind of your relationships with your co-residents?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel very fortunate that we have as large of a residency class as we do. Along with myself as the PGY1 HSPA resident, we also have 5 other PGY1s in the adult hospital. All 6 of us share an office, and we share an office with all of the PGY2s as well. And we have such close quarters that we do everything together. I mean, even before we started residency, we were hanging out and getting to know each other. And I can truly say that I would not have made it this far without them. They are absolutely the things that keep me going. And I am so appreciative to have that support in the form of my co-residents, and cannot imagine doing this with only 2 co-residents or a smaller class, because it really is them who are saying, you know, oh, hey, we need to be doing this right now. We need to be doing this. And we're keeping each other accountable for all of the different deadlines and projects and things like that that we have going on, as well as just making the whole process a lot more fun in the meantime.
This group is definitely a fun group. There is often laughter that erupts from the resident area at all times of the day. So Sydney's comments on their close-knit connections is 100% true. Okay, Sherwin, do you want to talk about the resident community in your first year, and then how it may have either changed or strengthened in the second year?
Sure. I would echo pretty much most of everything Sydney has said in terms of the camaraderie between my class. So nothing has changed between the years where we all sit together. We pretty much went everywhere together. In the both years that we've had so far, we've had Friendsgiving. Last year we also had Secret Santa, which we probably might do this year. Haven't decided as yet. But things like that just makes it much easier to get through the residency year. We support each other in everything that we do. When it comes to doing interviews, we were asking each other, okay, who has early commit interviews today? Or who is going on other interviews? Like things like that. We try to make sure everyone knows that if there's anything going on in their life that they want to share, they go ahead and share it. And it's exactly what has happened. In terms of transitioning to being the second year, I am lucky and unlucky in the fact that I have my own office, but it's not very far from the resident office. It's like maybe 5 steps from the entrance to the actual resident office where everyone else sits, so I can hear everything that goes on. I just have an office in case there are any meetings that come up or any HR things that I have to deal with because I'm the PGY2 admin resident. But one of the other great things is I am also one of the chief residents. So I generally walk into the resident office and like, how's everyone doing? Making sure they're all fed and with lots of snacks. So it's a great camaraderie that we all have. Even as the PGY2s, we still all get together, whether it is with the PGY1s or just the PGY1s have something going on and we just happen to do something together as PGY2s. We try to make sure everyone is supported and we have as good of a time as we can while in residency.
I can attest to the support and the camaraderie and just the general fun that the group of residents that we have tries to have with each other. They want to enjoy their experience while they're learning and training to be the absolute best future versions of themselves. And it really does show. And that thread is actually woven through the rest of the department. We very much care about the people that work with us every day. That extends beyond the pharmacy as well. Okay. Well, we wanted to thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for your interest in Vanderbilt's administrative residency program, and we look forward to interacting with you in the future. Have a great day.